I was driving up a remote forest road on a clear morning when something large moved onto the gravel right ahead of me. I hit the brakes instinctively, and the car skidded to a stop a few meters away. A young black bear stood in the middle of the road, sides heaving, its fur tangled and dusty. One glance told me something wasn't right. I slowly stepped out of the car, keeping my hands visible and my movements calm. When I got close enough to see clearly, I stopped cold. A worn-out tire was lodged around the bear's neck like a tight, unnatural collar. The poor animal looked exhausted, its snout streaked with mud, its breathing sharp and rapid. I hurried back to the car, grabbed a water bottle, cut it in half with the small survival knife I keep in the glove box, and poured water into the bottom half. I gently pushed it toward the bear. It leaned forward to drink, but when it tried to lower its head, it let out a short, painful grunt. That's when I noticed the thin steel wires poking out of the old rubber, digging directly into its skin. Fresh blood glistened beneath the edge of the tire. The bear stood still, not aggressive, just defeated. It must have been wandering like this for months, maybe longer. The tire had carved a deep groove around its neck, and its weight looked unnatural, as if the poor creature was carrying a concrete ring. I tried lifting the tire to see if it could slide off, but the bear flinched and I backed away immediately. It was obvious the tire was stuck far too tightly to remove by hand. I pulled out my phone and called the regional wildlife rescue hotline. The operator told me to stay near the bear but keep a safe distance. Help was on the way. For nearly 20 minutes, I watched the animal stand there, head lifted awkwardly, because lowering it caused too much pain. It didn't even attempt to sniff the plants along the roadside. Finally, a rescue vehicle arrived. A wildlife officer stepped out with a medical kit slung over his shoulder. After a quick examination, he murmured, "This guy has been carrying this burden for ages. His neck is completely raw." He loaded a tranquilizer dart, approached carefully, and administered a controlled dose. Within a few minutes, the bear relaxed, staying upright but calm and half asleep. The officer tried rotating the tire, but it didn't move at all. "It's jammed tight," he said. "There's something packed inside weighing it down." He peered into the narrow gap and sighed. "Mud. Lots of it. Leaves, sticks, maybe even stones. It's solid like cement." We decided to clear out as much debris as we could. While I gently supported the bear's head, the officer dug out hardened clumps of soil, pine needles, and compacted moss. Chunks of debris hit the ground like bricks. Even after clearing everything reachable, the tire refused to budge. The officer stepped back. "We need to cut it. I'll call the fire crew. They have the right tools." Those next minutes felt like an eternity. The sedated bear swayed slightly, breathing heavily. I kept brushing its neck gently, feeling how deeply the metal wiring had embedded itself. At last, a fire truck arrived. 2 firefighters came out carrying heavy hydraulic cutters typically used in vehicle rescues. The first rescuer positioned the blades against the tire's thick edge, but the tool slipped off the smooth rubber. "No grip," he said. I pointed to a jagged section where we had removed the mud. The firefighters nodded and realigned the cutters there. The rescuer pressed the handles and a sharp metallic crack echoed. The internal steel cord had snapped. He shifted to the opposite side and squeezed again. Another snap followed and the tire split open. They carefully pulled both halves apart and lifted them off the bear's neck. One firefighter tried picking up one section with one hand, but it barely lifted off the ground. "This thing weighs a ton," he muttered. I grabbed the small scale from my trunk, something I normally use while fishing, and we weighed both halves together. 19 kilograms. The bear had been carrying nearly 20 kilos around its neck every second of every day. The wildlife officer examined the injuries: deep grooves, raw skin, patches where fur had rubbed off entirely. Thankfully, there was no active infection. He rinsed the wounds with antiseptic and applied a thick layer of healing salve. Then he administered an antibiotic shot, followed by the antidote to reverse the tranquilizer. Within a minute, the bear blinked itself awake. It looked around slowly, then tested its neck, turning left, then right. After months of restriction, the movement seemed almost strange to it. Then it walked to a shallow puddle near the road and drank. Long, steady gulps. Watching that simple act felt like witnessing a small miracle. When it finished, the bear rubbed its neck against a nearby tree trunk, scratching properly for the first time in who knows how long. The wildlife officer smiled softly. "He's finally free." The bear looked at us briefly, calm, not frightened, then ambled back into the forest, its head held higher than when it had appeared. One of the firefighters shook his head. How could he survive with that thing? The officer answered quietly, "Someone probably abandoned that tire in the woods. The bear must have pushed its head through when it was smaller, maybe searching for food or water. By the time it grew, the tire trapped it, and over the years it filled with mud, getting heavier and heavier until the pain forced him onto the road looking for help." I watched the bear disappear between the trees. The whole rescue lasted less than 3 hours. but I knew it was something I'd remember for a lifetime.